Hey, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show. Today, we have with us Maxime, who's the creator of the attachment library, a tool that has sort of become essential to everyone who's trying to feed complex files in DSPy pipeline without headache. So we look forward to his tweets, pretty much the entire DSPy community on Twitter/X. There's always something to learn from him. Maxime, welcome to the show. And, would love to hear from you a quick introduction about you and what you're up to these days.
Thanks. Well, these days I'm making, so these days I wanted to bring my libraries to version 1.0, so MCP and attachments and stuff. But I say I wanted because as I was doing that, I wasn't happy with my editing experience. And so I'm working on a Markdown Notebook editor. And so basically what I want is something that's similar to Jupyter Notebooks, but where the experience is more of a text file, like a Markdown text file. And so the cells are just Markdown code cells, but when you run them, the output comes into the Markdown notebook under it, and you can go edit it, you can do everything. And I wanted to do that because, well, LLM, they all talk Markdown a lot. And so if I say, here's my Markdown on what we aim to achieve, here are examples of the APIs we want to do, do it, or like we run them to test them. One of the problems is when I make a library, I do the README file, and then I cannot go and get that README and run it and see the output below it and demonstrate that it works as I have put it there, those type of things. Okay. So LLMs are super good at reading Markdown. They're bad at reading Jupyter Notebooks. And I feel in the end, that will be the interface with which I'm going to work with LLMs, with Cloud Code and those type of things. Because I'm not going to edit the .py file much anymore, but I am editing a lot, a place where I'm like, here's our vision, here's our goal, here's our scope, here's our API, and here are examples of what we're going to do or aiming to do. And that file right now, that editing experience sucks. And so I want to make it better. Well, for me, and then...
Yeah, so let me just say what I understood you meant. The entire spec is your Markdown file. That determines what code was generated, and that sort of is your thought process behind what you want, right? And subsequently, when you want an iteration based on the code that you see, you feel that you missed something, or you feel you want to improvise something, or something the LLM missed, it again comes back as an LLM file, as a Markdown file after the first Markdown. So effectively, this editor is your entire sort of instructions and specs for your software. So the Markdown file is the repository.
That's my vision. So basically, the Markdown file is my interface of working to create the library or the repository. Yeah.
Got it. And so this is what programmers have come down to now.
I think so. I think it's Funct AI, where the whole documentation is the README file.
Correct.
And and I start from there. So it's a README file, and I actually usually work on it and create the README file. I did the same for attachments, and I create the README file where I'm like, this is what I want at the end. This is how it should work. I'm going to be typing that, and I want that to be giving me that. And then as we build a library under it, then I go test that it happens and it works. So yeah, and so there's no good editor for that. And one pattern I do a lot is I send my code to the 4 SOTA models and I get them to merge it back. And the way that I do that was that I was copy pasting into all of them and then getting their Markdown, putting them somewhere, running them, their code chunks to see if it works, then putting the results back, pasting it under the code cell, giving it back. I want it all in one Markdown and they all see it. And I want my output cells to be in my Markdown.
Got it. Have you checked out Maximo? I think that's what it's pronounced. Manimo, sorry.
Manimo, yeah. I did. I don't like the kind of looping of asynchronicity. Like one of their goals is that no cell get out of sync. But I don't like that. I like to have a very kind of linear and controlled order of running things.
Okay. So this tool, I'm assuming it's already under development. It's going to be a desktop app, web app. What exactly it's going to be?
So right now the GitHub is open. It's going to be 2 things, I think. It's going to be an open source library that you can just launch. I have version of a VS Code extension. I
Okay.
have Electron app. I have a web app. But they are like right now I have them in a version where I could, it's kind of working where I could experiment with the user experience and see if I like it and if it helped me
Got
like as I envision. And now
Right.
it does, but the code behind it is quite bad
Got
and messy. And so now I'm
Got it.
kind of rebuilding it from the base where I'm creating the libraries that I would need to make that editor nicely robust
Got
and
it.
everything.
Got it. So now the secret's out why you're posting less on DSPy. Of late.
Yeah. Well, and so the whole thing is that I'm from training data, like a scientist, a data scientist, data analyst, bioinformaticians, like those type of things, where I work with data in notebooks and script, like in R. That's my
Got it.
background. And then
Understood.
DSPy, to me, to do good DSPy, it's really a data science job. So it's
Understood.
also something you would want to do in a notebook so that you can investigate a lot of things and those type of things.
Got it.
And then as I was doing DSPy and my data science, I was just hating my developer experience. And so I want to do DSPy, but then
Mhm.
I didn't like how I had to bring PDFs to DSPy, so I
Right.
made attachments. I
We made a
didn't
task.
like how my editing in Notebook was, so now I'm making that editor. In the end, I
Got
just
it.
want to do DSPy, but I don't like my environment.
Right. You've taken a small detour, which is like basically
Yeah.
scratch your own itch. Yeah. But I'm afraid this detour is going to be very long.
I
No.
don't. We'll see.
All
We'll
right.
see. We'll see.
Got it.
We'll
Okay.
see. But
So,
yeah,
yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm not. I'm asking myself that often. Like, I want to finish something. I want to bring it to version 1. But I think I want to build a solid ecosystem of tools that I love, and then maybe other will love it. And I'm really mostly driven by myself.
Got.
And so if others don't like it, I'm okay.
You're
But
good.
I
Got it.
have my taste and my
Got it.
opinions, and
Got it.
I wanted attachments, so I made it. Yeah, so I want to make very solid pieces, and I have kind of the way I've been talking about it, right? It's a big ecosystem of how I want to work with AI, and that will take time. And I think I need to, I'm doing like I'll probably do kind of like attachments. I'm now doing version 3 where I'm restarting the repo,
Wow.
and because the architecture
It's changing.
is very important to do the architecture right to work well with AI coding agent. And so I always do many cycles where I first build it very dumbly to see the API and experience it and see if it's
Right.
valuable to me
Right.
and like how to redesign. Then I discover things. Then I usually try to do it nice in version 2. And then I discover things. And then usually version 3, I'm like, okay, now we're getting somewhere. And so, yeah, I take my time to enjoy the parts because that's all works on nights and weekends.
Understood. Sounds
So I take
sounds
my
like
time.
something DSPy Refined would do.
Yeah,
Right?
I have
Just
not
joking. Right.
used DSPy Refined much actually.
So I want to know how's the adoption of attachment been, and sort of what have been your biggest learnings or surprises, seeing how people use them, or some bugs that you found out. Like what's the experience been?
Well, so it's actually hard to know about adoptions because so I was reading one of your questions where you said, you're using it in production. I didn't know that. It's hard to
Right.
know
Right.
who's using it and in which
No,
context.
just okay. Like
Yeah.
like, don't you get some bugs or issues or people asking questions? Because I've seen people asking questions, right, to you on
Yeah,
attachment,
yeah. Yeah,
Discord or other places. Yeah.
there are a few.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's hard to know how deep it is somewhere. Like sometimes
Okay.
you will know some people use it and then not know and then realize later.
Got it.
But I think so on the adoption part, my point is as developer of those things, I think it's actually hard to know how adopted you are. Because you don't like I look at the PyPy downloads and those type of things. So
Right.
you have an
Yeah. Yeah.
indication,
Right.
but you don't know how foundational it is to some people,
Right.
let's say.
Right.
I know there's a team Playas team that made the Baguette au Tron. I don't know if you
Okay.
heard, like this small model, this small LLM. They reached out to me because they wanted to make a platform that was very attachments oriented. And so I have learned of kind of bigger team that wants to use it and those type of things. I have used it when I was working at Elsevier, a big corporation that do scientific literature analysis. And I was using it to prepare to process 12 million scientific papers and those type of things.
Okay. Got it.
Pretty solid in that way. Although, sorry, what was the other part of the question? So adoption is hard to say, to see.
Got it. If I'm not wrong, would this be your first biggest open source library in terms of traction?
Yeah.
So what did you learn from that you did not know before?
So the maintainers. So what I learned is that I think people that have good skills at maintaining are less likely to come and maintain and want to maintain and contribute. And people that maybe have less skills or want to maybe look kind of better, like kind of work on your library for their resume or something like that, which is, it's a decent strategy, but you have to fundamentally bring value to. And so what I've found is that I think there's this dynamic where the maintainers you would want would not come to be the maintainers, and the maintainers you get are maybe not as helpful as you might think. It may be part of that. I'm willing to say that I'm still very bad at managing and maintainers and stuff.
Yeah, it's
so
a lot
I
of
got
effort.
some, and it's hard to, attachments, because of this cycle and because I'm working with the LLMs a lot, there is parts of like what a maintainer could bring that could have been easier in the past that is just a Cloud Code that I'm going to be running. And so if it's one prompt to Cloud Code compared to a maintainer prompting Cloud Code 2 and sending that to you, then I prefer to just prompt Cloud myself and direct it, right? And so the contributions I would be needing are a bit higher level. Like in attachments, the vision is that we support all file types with time, right? So, and I want it to be a big community effort. So I want maintainers, I want contributors.
Right.
So I'm thinking of this like microscopes. They have weird image type and video type often. So I'm thinking like I would want a PhD student or someone using a weird microscope in their lab to be contributing that file type,
Understood.
Making big efforts so that the experience of adding those things to attachments is really easy.
Understood.
And so what I need is people that want to go on and like add support to those things that will connect very nicely to attachments infrastructure. But so far I've not gotten that. I don't know why, like that's not the type of contribution I had. And the contributions on the architecture and stuff, it's not something that helps me. I feel an architecture has to be cohesive in one head. And so I'm not comfortable accepting or like getting contribution there.
Got it.
I think
this is
the hardest thing I learned.
Got it. I've heard this before from folks, whose libraries adoption went through the roof. And they were like, I mean, it's a lot of effort is what everybody says. Okay, so moving on to one thing I looked actually across multiple libraries. You've tried to explore like a distinct, like a different style than what is sort of the current one in terms of if you look in attachment, you have that distinct bracket style DSL to sort of control ingestion. And I think in another, which we'll come to. So like, how do you pass this internally? Like, do you have like some sort of full blown AST sort of approach, or it's like a custom regex parser? Like, how is this working?
In the current version, the truth is I don't know. It's Cloud Code who did it.
Okay. Got it. Understood. Got it.
All my libraries are mostly, some say vibe coded, some engineering coded or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't type lines of code much anymore.
Got it.
But on the DSL there, Well, yeah, it's like one of the reasons why I have this DSL, well, it evolved organically. First, I was like, let's parse PDFs. Then I was like, yeah, but if I want just some pages, it would be natural to say I want 1 to 4. And so I was like,
Right.
how do we do pages, right?
All
And
right.
so,
I was just
and I
about to
want,
come to that, but go.
and I wanted the hyphen because it felt natural, like it's how we show page range in life. And I was also willing to use the NumPy convention, which is the square bracket, right? So if you want to have part of an array or the lists also in Python, and so I wanted to support that.
Mm-hmm.
But because attachments and our PDF is not a list, I
Mm-hmm.
had to decide how I'm doing that. And then what happened is that I started to think about other options like that I would want. And then some of them were obviously not allowed Python syntax. And so then I was like, well, I'm going to put, so at first I had the square outside, not in the string. So it was outside of the function call. But then I
Okay.
put it back, I put it in because some of the parameters I wanted started
Right.
to not be like acceptable Python because they
Right.
wouldn't be existing variables and those type of things. The other part, and that was my most this decision I was the least sure about this DSL and the string.
Okay.
But I decided to try it, and I'm kind of still trying it. And I had some feedback that people actually like it.
Okay.
And so one of the thing I wanted is the LLMs to be able to use attachments very easily. And LLMs talks in strings, and so that was no problem. That makes sense. I also wanted to be able to put an attachment call into a prompt. And so if you're doing that, then you're also already into a string. And so there are different reasons why I tried that. In my latest version of attachments version 3, so in that version, that version is not fleshed out much in the files it supports because I'm working mostly on the architecture, like I said, and on how I'm gonna extend it because it became a huge mess to extend it in my first version. And in that one, I'm actually going to support both. Its attachments will have the quarks, like the keywords arguments in Python,
Right.
so that you will be able to do everything you do in a square bracket there. And then there will be also the square bracket, which is basically in that case just when it comes in, the string of the path is parsed for his square brackets, and if there are any, they're turned into the keyword arguments.
Okay.
But one of
Makes
the
sense.
thing I like with that option is that it makes it also very kind of programmable because it's
Correct.
easier to
Yeah.
build strings than to build
Right.
quarks. I find sometimes, although it's a structured data format, but anyway, it gives me the flexibility.
Got it. No, I think it kind of takes you off the first time you see it, but just as you start using it, just becomes pretty natural. So, kind of moving on to so right now, attachment is pretty much like a read-only pipe, right? Like the data comes in, it goes through. But I mean, there is always this temptation to do more by bringing retrievers in and sort of, bringing some sort of chain of thought in, and all of a sudden you've got a mini in-memory rack for you running. Like, I don't know, I don't know what you're doing in version 3, but
Not that.
if someone just came and dropped like $1 million on you, which you took, and it's for attachment, what do you do with it? Beyond the
Well,
read-only.
so I make another library, and it's not attachments. No, but let me explain. So
It's detachments maybe.
attachments,
Okay, yeah.
yeah. So to
Go
me,
ahead.
attachments is pre-LLM. I wanted that library like that. The goal of attachments is to turn any path file
Mm-hmm.
types
Right.
to context that can go into the LLM.
Mm-hmm.
And I said that in my vision statement, and that was funny because there was a community member from DSPy that came in, made the first issue, And he said, well, if that's the case, can you support 3D models?
Oh, wow. Got it.
And I did. A week later, so attachments, you can give it a .obj and a render file or a Blender file.
Okay.
And yeah, you will get screenshots at like 9 angles of the 3D models.
Wow.
And
really?
Those images would be given to the LLM. Yeah.
LLM. Wow, that's mind blowing. I didn't know that.
So
wow.
So I want attachments to be pre-LLM because that's kind of the mission, is getting something to LLMs. And so LLM, if you're using a library that helps you get something to LLM, and then you need LLMs, you need another library in front of it, or something like that, right? So that's, to me, that this one is important, that it's pre-LLM, and I had this decision to make about the voice stuff. And so if you have a recording and you want to turn it into, and I have the same for PDF parsing.
Right.
So OCR and voice, we now have neural nets that helps us do that, right? Like we have neural nets that helps us do the OCR on text, which can be like some small Quen models and those type of things. And we have kind of whisper models that can turn recordings into strings of text that can be given to an LLM that cannot take that modality. And so, but my thing with attachments is that I didn't want you to need GPUs for it to run. It was, the idea is that it will run, get your .wav file and be able to send that to a call to Anthropic or whatever. And so you shouldn't need GPUs for it to work. So what I decided is that, yes, we will support models like Whisper to parse and small OCR models, but they have to be installable and work on CPUs too.
Got it. Understood.
And so if it doesn't make any sense to run the thing on the computer's CPU and in like a reasonable amount of RAM, then that will be what I see as after attachments.
Right.
Yeah. And so that's that. We may have optional parsing in models like OCR and those type of things for people that do have GPUs.
Right.
But I wouldn't support anything if we don't have a CPU only function, because like attachments basically is only one thing. It's one call. It's attachments, open parentheses, put a path.
Correct.
And if this does not always work on every machine, it's not gonna work. Like people won't use it. To me, like you can't be like,
defeats the purpose.
Use that one function on any path, but it doesn't always work. You will see. That doesn't work.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I want to add something to it. I was recently parsing PDFs at scale, right? And I went with I did all the comparisons of, the libraries, benchmarks, and I went with the best one, right? Don't want to name any. And it was so terribly slow, but did a great job. And I just did not have that kind of CPU power and just make the entire flow, because these are thousands of financial reports that are submitted to the stock exchange that get automatically downloaded. And eventually I went with the dumbest approach, which was PDF to text, irrespective of layouts. And I said, as long as all the text is coming back to back and I can just put it in the vector DB and I'm good, because I think performance is also kind of really paramount. And that's why I want to say that while all these new techniques are great, and we can bring in a small language model just focused on optimized for parse PDFs, etc., layouts, or neural nets focused on that. But I think performance at scale would matter, right? Like, what do you think? Right?
Yeah. I have the same with images, just the question of speed, size to quality.
Correct. Yeah.
Because if you want to send many images in one context window, you'll need to reduce it. And then by how much do you reduce it? When by default, the PDFs with attachments, they're given in two formats. They're given as images and as text, because the LLM performs much better when you give both. And so I've been looking for like, what's the smallest resolution I can put my PDF tile or image and so that the LLM is still getting full help from it, and then a dumb, cheap parser. This gradient, or like this knob of like how much quality and how much time and like, you know, what's your hardware on how you want to load something. This is a tough one that I want to get right, but I have not started, you know, kind of diligently on, but it's important. Like, yeah, I love things that are, I hate things that are more complex than they have to be. And so, you know, that's why I made attachments. I was like, just give me a path and it should go to the LLM. But I also don't like tools to get in my way. And I don't like when I'm using a tool that I have to like leave 3 weeks after because I realized it wasn't good enough.
Right, understood. Yeah. It happens.
And so, yeah, so I do want to give all this power. It will take time.
Whenever I think about attachment, and as you were speaking, I was thinking about it, I think it would make for a great bootstrap product that was that sort of, you know, worked across frameworks, etc. As long as it took care of a huge array of file formats. And so anybody who has, like, especially large companies, you know, they have a lot of diversified formats. Like I used to work for one of the largest healthcare providers in Middle East. And as I think about attachment and the kind of files we used to process, I can think of PDF, I can think of lab reports, I can think of different medical formats in which you get reports, etc. And then there were these, you have these specialized medical devices, right? Sort of emit their own format, which in turn would be humongous images. And yep, so I think MCP server for attachment is in the order.
Yes, it is. At first, I didn't like MCPs, but now I love them.
Okay.
And so, yes, an MCP server for sure. Attachments already have a CLI.
Right. Correct.
So that you can do at, then you give your path and you have the option so that it gets into your clipboard, and you have the option so that it gets the output all into your terminals and you can grab it and bring it somewhere else. And yeah, it will be quite easy actually to do a MCP server, and it's in the plans for sure.
Got it.
I was just thinking, I didn't answer actually your question just before about if we want to make attachment active. Like if you want, you know, attachments want to give you an Excel file and a PowerPoint and a Word and all those things, but it doesn't help you modify them, right? And that's why my answer was it will be another library, because to me it's a library on the other side. So there needs to be a library that gives you the tools to go edit those standard things. Now they are getting closer to it with skills. But I think attachments needs its kind of symmetrical sibling on the other side of the LLM. So attachments reads it, but then you have a library that should be like, hey, here's the file and here's the inputs. But this one is much harder because it seems like it wouldn't work. Like, how would you make an API that is simple, that you can go change an Excel file, a PDF, like a PDF you can't, and like, so you would have to read it, remake it, make a new PDF that, you know, this one is harder. So making it active in that way is really weird.
Understood. Okay. Let's move a little up the stack. You know, you build funny DSPy, right? Where you brought all these decorators and data classes to DSPy. Just curious why, like, is DSPy too verbose for your taste, or what was the specific friction point that made you say, you know, let me build this? Or is it you just had a lot of tokens at your hand and some time?
Well, I do have a lot of tokens at my hands now. Yeah, I made Funny DSPy was like a one-night experiment a while back, kind of at the beginning where I was learning DSPy. And so like I said, I'm from the data science world, data analytics, not software development. And so first thing is that we, in general, don't use class and don't know how to use classes. Like my colleagues, data analysts, when I was like, hey, let's use DSPy, they were like, what is this? This is not Python I've ever read. because of the classes, because of the subclassing and those type of thing. I wasn't really, I had only a conceptual understanding of classes when I started to explore DSPy.
Okay.
So I didn't really know how to code them, and it felt very weird to me.
Got it.
So that's one thing. And to me, DSPy, what it was doing felt like it was making a function, it was making a command, it was making something that was pipeable. And that to me is quite functional. And so I was like, I don't want the classes, I want the functions. This feels more natural to me. I know how to create a function, but I don't know how to create a class. So there was that.
Got it.
Also, yeah, so I'm from R. So I learned to program in R. And so, you mentioned a few things about the DSL and about the like that. Right. And so one of the reasons is that I now like Python more, but I used to, openly hate Python.
Wow.
I still
and now you're publishing libraries.
I think
wow.
Yeah, that's the I still conceptually don't like Python. Now, one of the things that has redeemed Python a lot to me is the work from Charlie March on UV.
Right.
So I'm from R and Julia, and the way we install libraries and the ecosystems in R and Julia felt much easier. Like the first experience of those languages was really easy. Like in R, you open a script and you can install libraries and call them from the script. And so you just go on, you open a script and you call things and it works. Julia is pretty much as easy as that. Python to me was always let's go on a 3 hours wild goose chase on installing anything to start working on anything. And that to me was painful. I just couldn't handle an ecosystem that starting was so hard. And it felt very kind of disconnected and amateurish and those type of things.
Got it.
And a lot of the
Are you using
APIs I found.
In the early days?
No, it's all UV now. All UV. And the one thing that made it worse is that the first few times I really got into Python was to use TensorFlow and to do AI in 2018 or something like that. And to install TensorFlow to make it work, I got to a point at some point where you have to install a new Linux, a new Ubuntu, the right version, and then you install TensorFlow and CUDA in the right steps, and then after 2 hours, or 2 days, and maybe you had to open your computer and see if your NVIDIA was in the right slot or whatever. And then at some point you started to have a terminal that could run TensorFlow. And I was like, and in comparison, and Julia were also doing TensorFlow, but people around me wanted Python. And I used to start a Julia terminal to install Julia's version in TensorFlow that was getting my environment right so that Python could use it.
Understood.
So I was using Julia to install TensorFlow so that Python could use it. I hated that.
Got it.
So yeah. Anyway, don't know why I got there, but that's.
I want to talk about the @AI decorator that you had, right? In your library. So two things on that. One, I personally loved it. And just like, you've seen the evolution of, say, for example, the Pandas library, right? Or even Apache Spark for that matter. There was one interface to use Apache Spark. Then they came up with even the ability to, sort of write a subset of SQL to query the data frames. Then they came up with another one, right? And so you have, I think, 3 interfaces to sort of query data frames. And I personally feel that maybe DSPy 4, right, should have another version of doing signatures, prompting modules in conjunction with the current one, thereby making the library more accessible to sort of a wider audience. Was this your motivation when you came up with this? Would love to know more.
Please repeat louder.
What happened? You weren't able to... Oh, okay. All right. You mean on the community and on X and Discord?
Yeah.
All right. Got it. Go ahead.
Yes, that's what I mean. Yeah, I think we all agree. And actually, Omar was telling me that initial version of DSPy were closer to FunctAI. And so he told me that there are some initial versions I would have loved.
Okay.
My feeling and it's really just my feeling and guessing, I have no idea, in fact, is that DSPy evolved to be more a software developer, kind of production ready, with more typed and more, kind of easier to build a software with. But I think in doing that, it evolved away from easier to do scripts and data analytics type of things.
Makes sense.
And like again, in data analytics, you want a lot of functions that are like pipes. And so you do transformations and you pass the output of the data frame to the next one, and then you transform it. And to me, I want my DSPy functions or commands to be programs, to be pipeable one to the other. And I really see DSPy as very much of a function.
Okay.
And so Funny DSPy was the thing I made as I was learning very early on. And it was fine, but there was problems, and Omar, the main creator of DSPy, pointed out those problems. And so at that moment, I felt like, oh, it wasn't right. Let's say like Omar didn't say it was enough, let's say, for DSPy to be in the DSPy community.
Right.
But Funct.ai, I think on Funct.ai, I got it closer to be right, because we were missing a way to specify a few things that the signature class way of doing it does. And no, I think Funct.ai has I kind of know because I'm mapping one to the other. It's complete. So it's a complete other way of doing DSPy. It's not version 1.0 and anything, but I think the API design is quite right. And I think it would help a lot of people. I know my colleagues, my data analytics colleagues are finding that much easier. I did some demo of it to some people that were not much Python developer. And I had a question like, I saw some minds being broken because they were like, how can you define like I defined like a translating function in 2 lines, and then I called it, and then it translated stuff, and they were like, but how does it but how do you know it will work? Because it was like too magical.
Their mind just glitched, is how I would put it.
And this year I'm supposed to have a lot more times with DSPy, because I'm going to be contracting with a different DSPy centered group.
Oh, okay.
I'm not saying too many details because I don't know how much I can say, but like it's gonna, so I'm moving probably full time to DSPy and Compound AI system work in my daytime, my day job.
Okay.
And I'm super excited about that. This is gonna be great.
Got it. That's amazing.
And I think one of the things I'll be able to do with that time is revamp the documentation, because a lot of people find it reads very academic. And it's hard for some type of users to get into DSPy with that documentation.
Right.
And I will personally try to use some of that time to push for this other API and see if we can get it into DSPy 4. So like I said, say it louder, and so that will help.
Yeah, sure.
I mean,
you can count on
the end of the day, I really just want to make Compound AI system easier to make, and I think DSPy is the most advanced, closest to it. My hunch is that if we add that API, I don't think it will make it worse. I think it will be very welcome by some people. And I think those that don't need it, like the real question or the real risk is that you confuse people, right? They can be but why is there 2 ways to do the same thing? Correct. I think we can mitigate that risk by other ways than not doing it. That's my intuition.
Makes sense. Awesome. So this kind of brings us to the end, and I've got one fun question before we wrap this up. So assume you've got attachment, then your upcoming Markdown tool, and then you've got Funct.ai, Funny DSPy. If you were to kill all of them and just retain one, which one would it be?
It's a tough question because I'm not gonna do it. I'll bring them all. I'll bring them all to version 1, and I don't. LLMs are on my side. They'll get better this year, and we'll bring it all to version 2, version 3, version 4. But think attachments is more impactful or different. I think it brings its own thing to the Python community, but even maybe to the development community with AI. We know what, like, a file type is constant through time, and there are thousands of file types, and there are implementations to turn these file types scattered in the wild to turn them into something that can be given to an LLM. To me, it's just kind of a curation and organization of that. It's like, hey, if you're out there coding this support for this weird different medical type, just, contribute your one script of 200, 300 lines to attachments. And so if I had to like put all my effort somewhere, would be attachments, because that's, I think, much of the hardest thing. Oh yeah, so attachments is more different, and so that's why I would keep attachments if I had to choose. And so one of the, focus and specialization and breadth, and that's basically the question. And I really think attachments is important, even in the era of LLMs, coding AI. And there was this weird thing with libraries where we think that they're going to be less important because people, well, first, it's harder to use a new library because LLM don't know about it. It's people are coding less, and so themselves, they're more working at a higher level with LLMs, and so it's less maybe important to have some like neatly packaged functionalities because maybe you're okay that your AI writes 200 lines of code. But to that, my thinking is that there are different things. If everybody always spends the token to recode 200 lines of code to parse this particular thing, well, first, we're just wasting compute and wasting our money, like, altogether. So why not have one that codes it, and then we put it together and we call it, we document it well. And the other part is that there is a lot of like curation or like stamps of approval or stamps of quality that comes with a library's use through time. And so if we are 1,000 people using a certain function, there are more chances we find all the bugs and the problems than if we all roll around today and then we have all to find our bugs and problems. And so there are still these values that, like, no matter if you have AI, I mean, the only cons of what I just said is like, no, but AI is now 10,000 times faster and cheaper, and it's never wrong. There is no bug, and it's instantaneous, So that's a world where you wouldn't need libraries, but even then, at the end, there is one usage that coding agent will never replace, and it's like thinking through coding. So some people think through writing, and I think through some people think through math. I think through coding. Like, if I want to kind of tackle a problem, I'll be playing around with small snippets of codes. And if I'm doing that, then I need attachments to load my thing. I don't want to think too hard about it, but I also don't want to have a mess of 200 lines of code, like, kind of cluttering my thinking and my notebook. So I just want to load my PDF once, easily, one string. I know where my PDF is. I want that. And then I want like simple abstractions, very high level of like what I want to be working on and what I want to be thinking about. And so I think clear, simple functions and abstractions like that will stay important. And the other, funny DSPy, FunctAI, MCP2Py, I have so many others too, that, like, part of them are experiments. A lot of the things I do, I make it libraries open because I don't have reason not to. It's not like it's not like, hey, I want to share that, you must all use it. Sometimes it's just like, I'm doing that, and why would I hide it? Like, I don't know. It's just there.
Got it. Yeah.
But I do, it's not like if I don't pay for GitHub, like, I can put stuff private. I don't. It's not my vibe.
No, it's good to share.
So yeah, so a lot of those things are mostly my own experiments, explorations. If they're useful to others, so be it. If LLMs can go read them and train on that, that's better. And so that's another reason to have it open. And a lot of the times, like every time I do a library, and I'll always do many, the first thing is to test the idea, to test the API, to test the concept. The library is the, it's also named a package. So it's my way to package that exploration. And yeah, so I make many. I always make a lot. Sometimes I had some questions. Some people were like, "Hey, so it seems like you have time now. Will you like fix that issue on attachments?"
Got it.
And I said, "Well, it's not because I'm making another package that I have time. It's because it's different time. Like if I have to like go fix this hard thing about the infrastructure of attachments, I need to have a big chunk of time free. But if I am exploring how to parse audio with something for an hour or two, it's not the same energy. So that's sometimes they don't take the same energy at the same time. But
well, it's free. You're not getting paid for it, so it's all good.
No, yeah. Attachments to me definitely needs to go to version 1. It needs to support 50 plus file types. It needs to be robust. There was the hardest thing with attachments that I haven't found how to fix is that with time, it will become very hard to install because if you support
all the dependency
100 file types, you're gonna have those dependencies, and I don't want people to have to start picking each of them, and so it's gonna be hard. But I think what I want to do is to have a core set of very classic dependencies to work. Then there will be like kind of little additions. But overall, one service that I think attachments will need is that if you don't want to fight the installation, I think I will make like a server that has all of those installed, and then you can call them instead of running it locally, you will run it on the service or the server.
I've seen this thing, sometimes people do pip install package name and there's a bracket and you just say what you want. I think that's another way of sort of installing, all the dependencies or a class of it. And the default will only have the top ones.
Exactly. That's in attachments version 3 already. And so there will be a lot of groups like that, but it's a bit less common and natural, I feel, for beginners.
People don't know about it. Yeah.
I'm always thinking of beginners when I'm doing these things.
Got it. No, I mean, and that's why it's, your libraries are well adopted. Maxime, it was awesome to host you and talk to you, and all the best for the Markdown project, and also for the DSPy focus consulting that you'll be starting off. And we're looking for more, keeping an eye on the work that you're doing. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. It was my pleasure, and thanks for your work on DSPy Weekly and all the other good stuff like this one that you're doing. It's really great.